Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 730. Here's the beautiful and talented Mariko. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Great to be here, Keith. How are you today?
Pretty good. Yourself? It's great to see you again.
Yes, it's been a few years. So much has happened.
No, absolutely. Now, and anyone who wants to see our very first episode, the link will be in the description and below, so we can see the before and after. Now, I want to do like something different to cover the bases instead of the very first one. So we're going to hint back towards the first one, and we can show like clips a little of all of that. But it's pretty much just a catch-up. The last time I think you were on the show was what, 15, 16, give or take?
Sounds about right, Keith. And my gosh, you know, I think at that time, what I call the era of massive disruptions was just starting. And now, 2020, we're just seeing this massive waves and waves of disruptions and change. And so I think it's a really great time to touch base and, you know, see how we're doing, and also what we need to shift as the world is shifting so much.
No, I agree with you 100%. You know, not to talk about politics or anything, but this November, you know, the shit's going to hit the fan. And it's PG-13, by the way, so it's okay. But really, the shit's going to hit the fan. You know, I'm going to go with Joe Biden because he has a disability and he represents people with disabilities. So therefore, what's the line with the show? It makes more sense to go with someone who represents the disability community. Also, he seems more confident, too.
Yeah, well, you know, I think that definitely it's a contentious year in so many ways. But I really think we're entering an era where, yes, the government, you know, who's in charge is very, very important. But at the same time, the people taking charge of their lives, and I think that is very important. Maybe, you know, what happened to our leadership is, you know, it happened for the very, maybe it was a cosmic plan to put, you know, to wake us up and say, hey, you know, we need to, you know, take charge and protect our rights. We need to stand up for our rights. We need to take charge of where our life is going. It's really only our responsibility, you know. And I have a company called Visionary Yoga, and so I really help people with that. Like, I think each person, you know, we are the destiny maker, you know, of our own lives. And I really commend you, because it's like a lot of people who, you know, have been told, you know, what's been told to you, and, you know, kind of labeled and all of that, they tend to let that define their circumstance and destiny. And you haven't, you know, you haven't allowed that. You have actually turned it around. And so I think that's really, that spirit is really important, no matter who gets in charge, you know, the White House. So I'll definitely be watching closely, but I've kind of, I think that I'm avoiding watching the news too much right now, because first of all, we're like, the media is, I don't feel it's any longer an accurate description of what is. I mean, the media has their own thing to sell, you know, and they love to sell bad news more than good news. And what that does to my personal vibration is not great. And I'm like, my attention span is the most precious thing on this entire planet. And I'm going to take charge of it. And I'm going to put my attention where I want to go instead of what the media wants to feed me, you know?
No, I agree with you 100%. And after a while, yeah, okay, I like Bill Maher because he makes jokes. I like Steph Myers, he makes jokes. I like Chris Cuomo. I like Chris Cuomo because, you know, he's funny. And I can't think of the other guy's name, but he goes on right afterwards, about 10 p.m., and he's funny too. But after a while, yeah, you can make all the jokes you want in the world, but it will not change a damn thing. And I'm sitting here, and that's why, Trump with, diarrhea in the mouth like he always does. And then he had the other guy freaking hiding in the basement for God knows how long. Finally, he got out of the basement. That's Joe Biden, by the way. And they told him he was, hiding in the basement. Um, you know, you really don't know what's true and what's false because the media wants to tell you this is going to happen, living life in fear. I'm surprised the suicide rate isn't up through the freaking roof. But like I said, you can make all the jokes you want. But at the end of the day, cut the BS, and we need action. I said, Wes, there's a wrestler on The Undertaker who said back in 2003, either put up or shut up. And you can talk all you want, but you better be able to back it up. And the problem is, they said back in when, Obama was running for president, it's like, oh, you're either voting for him because he's black, or you're not voting for Obama because he's black. And now it's kind of like the same thing with Trump. It's like, oh, you're voting for him because you like Trump, and then they're right. You can't have it both ways. And I said to my dad when we came home today, I want someone, I don't care who you are, white, black, Spanish, I really don't care who you are. I want someone to do a good job. Just do a job. It's a job. Enough with the bullshit, enough with the politics. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. Not mindless garbage does not matter. I want to, be able to work, put food on the table, live in a normal society. And right now, we're pretty much one of the inmates from the asylum. And it's really hasn't gone this bad since, the 1960s with the race riots. You're supposed to learn from history, not repeat it. And it's really sad and pathetic that people repeat history.
Well, I think, but we also have to own it because people are us too. And so we have to see well, it's a pattern and patterns repeat themselves. And so I think that looking out is one approach, but it's also very important to, look within. And I think that we are living in an era where each of us need to take personal responsibility actually for our own inner state of being. And so and I think, yes, I mean, it's we can talk about politics, but I tend to avoid the conversations around politics because it inevitably it turns into finger pointing and it becomes kind of a counterproductive thing. Now, if we're going to talk about what strategies might be good, but then politicians say what the people want to hear to get the votes. I mean, ultimately, their agenda is to get the vote. So again, it's not an accurate reflection, But if we could actually look, I mean, I think the most important and productive thing we can do is really, look at ourselves and, really how much of the responsibility for the quality of our life are we putting on the government and politicians, and I think we need to start taking responsibility for that, and I think only then it's things are going to shift because I think JFK was right. Like ask not what the government can do for you, and I think that as much as I don't envy anybody in leadership in the government right now because I think they have a really hard job on their hands. Whatever country they may be in, United States or India or Brazil or any country, it's like being in leadership in times of crisis is really hard. And so, nobody's perfect. I think the mistake in the United States was to politicize the coronavirus. I think that, it was a health crisis. That's what it is. And to use it for any kind of political means is just, we got to think about the people first, and I don't think our leaders really did that. I mean, I think maybe our state leaders, I think, I commend our state leader. I think he did, the best he could. But I think why, has the United States been criticized so much for how we handled it is I think this whole politicization of coronavirus, I think it was the mistake, really, because I think it was a time for us to pull together, go beyond partisanship, and say, "Hey, this is a human crisis." People are dying, and it doesn't matter which side of the political wing you're on. It's we need to get into problem solving mode and cut the conflicts, and yeah, as you said, stop the politicking and come up with solutions to save lives. And I think. At a certain point, it just turned into, politics, which I think was very regrettable. So I think we need to. I think it shows the level of maturity of who's in charge, and I think maturity only comes from working on ourselves. It's at the end of the day, it's an individual consciousness issue, and we need our leaders to be self-aware. We need our leaders to be willing to look at their own faults and be able to admit when they were wrong, and have that kind of maturity to take ownership, because people copy the leader. So but I think since the leadership is not doing that, I think those of us who are awake enough to know this, I think, need to take hold of our attention span and say, hey, like, we vote with our attention. Our attention is the most precious thing. There's billions of dollars spent to, get your eyeballs, onto something. So what you spend your time looking at, listening to, that, first of all, we need to become more mindful. And then also, when the race car is being, race car driver is being trained, he's trained to actually not look at the obstacle that he might crash into. Most amateur drivers will just be staring at the wall because that's like the crisis right in front of them. But the real skilled driver will look where he needs to go. So, we need to turn our attention to where we want to go, and that's we need to take our attention off the media sometimes, and we need to put more attention on what we want than what we don't want, or criticizing others or blaming others. I think we need to shift that.
I agree. And what my brother does is he listens to 15 minutes of the news and that's it. Then he's done. And
Yeah.
you can't watch the news 24/7 because you'd be, jumping out of windows. You just do like set up a timer, 5, 10, like 10 minutes, watch it, and that's it. For me, I really don't care who's going to be president, number one. I just want there to be a vaccine. I want to focus on the Keith Andrew Network. That's all I want. To focus, get the vaccine, go out, do whatever the hell I want. I really don't care about politics. But you have people home, and now it's that second wave coming, because England got hit by it, and Australia, unfortunately, the crap's got to hit the fan again, and we're going to get it. And on top of the flu, by the way, I hope you get your flu shot, even though they're saying there's now a shortage on that. So it's pretty much, once there's a vaccine, I can stay focused. Right now, they're so busy talking about election that to get their people's attention off the vaccine. The vaccine is more important than being who's president. Because now, I'll give you an example. When this happened, they said, oh, we're going to impeach Trump. We're going to impeach Trump. And they covered the vaccine. Then people started to talk about the vaccine again. Like, okay, yes, we really need it. And then they purposely talked about something else, and that takes priority over, no, get a vaccine so life can go back to normal, and then you can talk about politics, because politics will never change. It's not going anywhere. It'll always be there. But having innocent people die and having that on your head, that's a different subject. But with that being said, we're not talking about politics because, it's stupid, it's pointless, and actions speak louder than words. But the thing I want to ask you about
Mhm.
is I mentioned in our first episode that you are a book author. I would love to have a copy of your book. And what can you tell us about your book?
Okay, I wrote this book called The Yoga of Personal Development. Now, yoga is a word that's become like almost English now because, and people think of it as a fitness modality, stretching and breathing on the mat. And, but I'm on a mission really to change the perception of yoga because I was blessed to study as a fellowship scholar India for about 10 years, and I created this company, Visionary Yoga, really to share with people what I call the invisible side of yoga. Now, I'm not against the physical practice at all. I think this is the doorway through which most people get exposed to yoga, and that's wonderful. And the reason, yoga has become so so popular now is that it is so effective. It is so effective and has, so many benefits. You could probably fill, a very thick book with, many benefits for the human, the body, the physiological benefits, the psychological benefits, and also emotional, mental health benefits. And it's I found that as I started to really attend these seminars on personal development geared towards entrepreneurs and business leaders, as I sat there and listened in the audience, I really heard so many parallels to what the yoga masters had talked about. And so I realized, my gosh, yoga is actually in its purest form, it is actually an internal discipline. It's all about the mind because the mind is the interpreter of reality, right? And that's why we're talking about like the news and why it's not so healthy to watch it all the time because our reality is created by our perception, and it's that perception, the media is trying to shape our perception of reality into a certain way, and that picture determines how we act. It determines what we think of ourselves, what we think of the world we live in. It determines so many of the actions we take. And so the mind is the reality interpreting mechanism that we all have. And so it is so important. That's why the most powerful part of personal development is cleaning the inner lens of perception. So we get to see things as they are, not better than they are, not worse than they are. It's not like wearing rose-tinted glasses, and it's also not becoming a pessimist. It's just being level-headed, level-eyed, and seeing everything as they are, and being able to be with things as they are, and be steadfast in awareness and observation. And then from that place of really, perceiving reality accurately, then we can act from a more resourceful and intelligent place. So I wrote this book to just talk about the inner dimension of yoga, which I think is not really talked about in the yoga studios and the 1 hour classes that we have in the gyms and yoga studios. It's wonderful, but it's limited, and there needs to be a place to talk about the deeper dimensions of yoga that is truly the most transformational aspect. It is really about human transformation, from the cellular level up. And so, so that's a book that became an Amazon bestseller, and I'm really proud of it. I start with a little kind of talking about sharing my exploration in India and the amazing beings and sages I met. And yoga has all these allied sciences that are also Ayurveda, which is the most ancient holistic medical system in the world, and it's a sister science to yoga. So it has so many wisdom. So instead of just waiting for the vaccine to come out, there's so many existing therapies that that can help us increase our immunity and help prevent catching coronavirus, or even if we catch the virus, that we can, like in India, they have a great like 40% rate of recovery from coronavirus. And so that's a statistic we also need to look at. It's not just how many people got infected, but how many people are recovering after contracting the coronavirus. And that has to do with your immunity, and certain herbs, your dietary and lifestyle really help to build up that immune system. So yoga and Ayurveda both I share in this book, The Yoga of Personal Development, and it's on Amazon, and you can check it out. It's very, very affordable. And I think that people who think, I don't want to touch yoga with a 10-foot pole because I've been to a yoga class, it's so intimidating. And, if anybody who had a bad experience in a yoga class, I just want to say that, the physical, practice of yoga is just like tip of the iceberg, less than even 1%, I would say. The real power of it is, how it can change your mindset, your heart set, and get you in touch with the intelligence of your, cellular intelligence, your emotional intelligence, your not just your cerebral intelligence, And before we got on, you were, talking about, using this word retarded, how you were called that so many times, and I think that this is such a misunderstanding, that. It's a terrible misunderstanding. I think it's an ignorance in our society, because intelligence is not just cerebral intelligence. Intelligence can have so many levels, and our society is just highlighting just this logical, rational brain, cerebral intelligence. But, what about really your gut intelligence, your heart, the hunches that you have, and also your kind of action intelligence. You took action on your inspiration, and that's why you're doing what you're doing today. So I think we have to pay respect to that, the intelligence of taking action. And that's why I think the most successful people are not the smartest people. The happiest people are not always the smartest people. I think the most successful people are people who take action on their convictions, on their beliefs, and their vision, and they don't let obstacles stand in the way. They don't let others define their, destiny. So, and I think so. In that respect, I think you're super intelligent, Keith, and it's really. And I wanted to share like a new paradigm of what does it mean to be intelligent? What does it mean to really achieve peak performance? Because that book is also about achieving peak performance as a business leader, but also a human being, so we can have fulfilled life, and yeah, so that's a little bit about the book, and I hope, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Oh, absolutely. Now, it's the last 4 minutes left. Was there anything you wanted to talk about? Anything you wanted to promote? This is your time.
Yeah, sure. So I was just going to, talk about that peak performance, because I think in this paradigm shifting time of the 2020s, even peak performance is undergoing paradigm shift. And what I mean by that is, in the old days, peak performance just meant like, if you're an athlete, you got to just like push your limits, push, and then maybe you'll break a record, but then it didn't look beyond that. So it's like after you win the gold medal in the Olympics, or after you break that record, then what happens? But I think the new paradigm in peak performance has to be from the perspective that life is a marathon and life is multidimensional. So how do we take that peak performance into business, into relationships, into health building? And so I have this 5-day peak performance yoga challenge that I'm running, and it is taking this kind of holistic view at what peak performance is. And if you're feeling drawn to like resetting your health regime, getting more disciplined, and really getting game on, whatever your game is in life, I invite you to join me. It's completely free. It's 5 days of super valuable paradigm shifting modules. So each day will be, day one will be clarifying your vision and setting, there's an art to setting goals as well so that it propels you to take action, And then day two, we really double down and really laser focus on what are your obstacles and, really getting focused on making an inventory of everything that's standing in the way between you and achieving your goal before the year is out, right? I'm sure January 1st, 2020, a lot of us set our, goals and resolutions, and then coronavirus happened and it all went to, so now it's not too late, right? It's not too late. Just get back in the driver's seat of your life and join me for the Peak Performance Yoga Challenge. It's just 5 days, and you can go to just yogaofpeakperformance.com. That's www.yogaofpeakperformance.com. And I poured my heart and soul into this, really thinking I want to make it like 10x the value you would get from a $1,000 course. And I want to make it free because we're in such a crisis time that we need each person performing at their highest, not just physically on the fitness level. And by the way, there is a daily free 20-minute yoga segment you'll get with this challenge, completely free, and you get tons of value. And I made sure that it's something that will change your life long after you're done with the 5 days. So that's the yogaofpeakperformance.com, and it's completely free. So I want to welcome you with open arms if you're feeling called to step up and rise. It's like visionaries have consistently become excited in the times of change. Visionaries and winners get excited in the times of change. Disruptions actually excite them. Victims get afraid. Big victims become afraid of change. So it's time to rise and thrive and, get in the driver's seat and really take hold of our destiny, because we are the image maker. We are our destiny creator, and so I would love to be the one to help you kick off that process if you're not on that already. So do join us. It's going to be really motivating, really inspiring, really mojo building and fun too. So it's at yogaofpeakperformance.com. And I'm really, really honored to be on your show again, Keith. I think you're doing a great job, and I can see the growth you've had in the past 4 years. I can't believe it's been that long.
No, absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you off the air.
Yeah.
About wrapping up our interview segment. It was a real honor privilege having you as a guest. I'm looking forward to part 3 down the road.
Hi, I'm Amelia Rose. Hi there, I'm Saki Mieta.
Hi guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews' show.